But if you are in the northern part of the Northern Beaches and the northern zone of the Northern Beaches around the Avalon cluster, unfortunately, the stay-at-home provisions will be staying in place until the 9th of January, and that's because of the number of active cases we have, the number of people we have in isolation and the concentration of cases, and also the fact that we still haven't found the real root cause of how the virus actually got to the Avalon RSL. So for those reasons, unfortunately, the stay-at-home provisions will be in place for the northern zone of the Northern Beaches. However, on New Year's Eve, you will have some relief. You'll be able to have up to 5 people into your home, including children. But again, they have to be from the northern zone. They have to be from north of the Narrabeen Bridge and west and east of the Baha Temple. So please know you can have up to 5 people in your home during New Year's Eve, but they have to be from that zone. And outside of that, we're still going to allow you to have 5 people at public gatherings, outdoor gatherings, during the entire time until the 9th of January. So stay-at-home provisions that you're all used to now are in place, with the exception of New Year's Eve, where you can have 5 people into your home. But on every other day, you can have 5 people outdoors, but we don't want anyone outside of the household coming into your home apart from New Year's Eve. And can I be very clear about that? It's really important to keep households separate when we've got such a high concentration of cases, active cases, and also people in isolation, and that's just to keep everybody safe. And we appreciate the frustration that many of you are experiencing, but if we ask you to do the hard yards now, we're confident that we'll be able to regain normality much sooner than anticipated, given where the cases are going and how the strategy is actually unfolding. So for those reasons, the stay-at-home provisions in the northern zone will be in place until the 9th of January, with the exception of New Year's Eve, where you can have 5 people into your home, and also outdoor gatherings during that entire period until the 9th of January. You can have 5 people outside the home as well. In relation to the southern bit of the Northern Beaches, now I appreciate the southern part of the Northern Beaches doesn't have as high number of concentration of cases, so we are still going to have to ask you to have the stay-at-home provisions until the 2nd of January. On New Year's Eve, however, you will be allowed to have 10 people into your home, but unlike Christmas, those 10 people includes children, and it also means they have to be from your zone, from the southern part of the Northern Beaches. We don't want people moving in and out of the area for the next few days. We want to keep the area separate to make sure that any untraced chains of community transmission have actually been clamped down, that any unchained traces or unlinked cases can be identified and those things eventually found. So for the southern part or the southern zone of the Northern Beaches, we're asking you to have the stay-at-home provisions till the 2nd of January. However, on New Year's Eve, you're able to have 10 people into your home from your zone, and outside of that until the 2nd of January, you still can have outdoor gatherings of 10 people. So if you want to have a picnic or take the children to the playground or have a barbecue outdoors, you can have groups of 10 people. But again, we don't want to see convergence of those groups of 10. So that's what gives us concern. When too much mingling is happening between households, that's when the health experts get concerned about potential outbreaks of the virus. So again, we're deeply grateful for your support. We're deeply grateful for your patience, and we appreciate frustration levels are increasing, but this is to keep you safe and everybody else safe. And we're going to reevaluate on the morning of the 2nd what happens in that southern zone of the Northern Beaches beyond the 2nd of January. So our ultimate aim is to make that zone part of Greater Sydney as soon as possible. So we'll have a conversation with the health experts on the morning of the 2nd to see to what extent we can ease restrictions. There will be an easing of restrictions from the 3rd, but what that looks like is yet to be determined, and we'll know on the morning of the 2nd what the 3rd of January looks like for the southern bit of the Northern Beaches. But for the rest of us, there is a degree of certainty now moving forward. For Greater Sydney, nothing changes. For the regions, nothing changes. For the northern part of the Northern Beaches, nothing changes until the end of the 9th of January. And for the southern part of the Northern Beaches, until the 2nd, we're asking you to stay at home and keep the current arrangements in place, with the exception of New Year's Eve, when you can have 10 people from the region into your home. But we're hoping from the 3rd of January that you will feel some relief. And what that relief looks like, we'll be able to tell you on the morning of the 2nd. So we can confidently say that there will be some relief for you. The stay at home won't be what it looks like today from the 3rd of January, but to the extent of it, we'll be able to tell you on the morning of the 2nd. But obviously our aim is to incorporate that southern zone of the Northern Beaches into Greater Sydney as soon as possible, and that's the next logical step for us. But we'll want to wait a few more days to make sure the virus, any unexpected consequences of the current cluster haven't emerged. Now, we appreciate, again, the sensitivities around New Year's Eve, so we're trying to be as generous as possible, but again, we don't want to create any super spreading events on New Year's Eve, which then ruins it for everybody across the state moving forward.